So here's my Twitter name. My brother still has more followers than I do, so need people to follow me. Website and email address if you need me. There's information, a little bit of information here on the Iron Yard and my card. You can also email me at that email address too if you have any questions. So Sketch. Iron Yard, I've just told you a lot about Iron Yard. Okay. Sketch. I'm not a Sketch expert, but I'm a very happy user. So has anybody here used Sketch before? Okay, are you good at Sketch?
Yeah.
It's really easy, so it's kind of easy to get good at.
Pretty easy, yeah.
So in that sense, okay. So am I. I'm good at it.
I just got it like maybe a couple of weeks ago. And when I saw the meetup pop up, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah.
You're an expert.
Well,
I'm an expert?
You're an expert.
I'll just, okay, I'm an expert.
Well, hopefully I'll show you something new. Here's what we're going to discuss. The templates, which I'm sure you've seen. The basic drawing tools. Symbols, you know how to use symbols?
Yeah, that's basically just a component. It's a group of...
You know how to use layer styles?
From Photoshop, that kind of rings a bell.
Have you done the app nearing?
No.
Okay, good. I'll show you that. I'm sure you've exported assets.
Not yet.
This is like my favorite feature.
Like I said, I'm really...
Good.
Yeah.
I'll show you some resources, and they actually have a really vibrant online community making resources for it and plugins. So that's one thing that's super nice about it. There's tons of people in the development sphere that are using it. I think there was a lot of pent-up rage about having to use a photo manipulation program for web development for so long. I'm not going to sit here and bash Photoshop. I actually like it. Most of what I know about Photoshop I learned by taking an online comic book coloring course in Photoshop. It was the best class I've ever taken. Like my homework of having the Hulk fight the Juggernaut and coloring that was like the best homework I've ever done, bar none. So that was awesome. But you know, Photoshop's fine. Sketch is really more of a competitor for Illustrator. Sketch is a vector tooling art program like Illustrator. Photoshop is originally a photo editor that got used for a lot of web development. So if you want to think in terms of analog, it's not really Photoshop, it's really Illustrator. And, all right, we're now out of slides.
Will it allow you to do responsive layouts?
No and yes. How's that for an answer? It's not really responsive, but it does make it really easy for you to do both a desktop and like a mobile, and see them like on same artboards right beside each other and share things. We're gonna do that here in a second. This is a graphics program. This is not a prototyping tool in the sense of some prototyping tools where you kind of move stuff around and you can run them on your phone and buttons can click and pages can change, but there's not really anything going on. This is a graphics program. That's what this is. So let's start with just some of the basics. All right. This is Sketch. You can create artboards, which is where you put your assets, where you draw things, okay? You can create artboards of, I guess, any size you want, any shape. You can also not do what we're doing right here. Don't save. And you can use the templates. So I can say web design, and so I'm going to go to web template that gives me a desktop HD artboard, which I generally delete, a desktop, a tablet, and a mobile size. And this is actually a gray background on my screen, and we can't see that at all. Imagine there's a square there.
It is.
Can you see it?
But you don't have 20/20 or expected.
Hey, I am losing my eyesight because I can't see
No,
it.
it's really...
You can always put in a
almost
fill.
the same.
Wash now.
Just put in a fill.
But this is, I did. It has a gray fill right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, well that's a maroon on my screen. So we'll do our best. I'll try to use not gray ever, since we can't see that at all. Okay, so that's the size of a mobile portrait. Here, let me do this. Tablet portrait, Oh, got to do the fill. There we go. Okay. And then desktop, it's bigger than that, as you can imagine, okay? So you get artboards that you can draw things on. Let's do some basic drawing. So what I was just using was the rectangle tool, which allows you to draw rectangles. You can do all sorts of shapes and you can resize them and whatnot. So there's that. Let's do an oval. Okay, oval. If you hold down Shift, it'll constrain it to actually being a circle. Anyway, you can't see that. We're gonna have this problem a lot, aren't we? Okay, so you can draw different kinds of shapes and whatnot. The basic shapes are kind of nice, but there's a lot more to web development than just basic shapes. You can put text on the screen, not surprisingly. Hello. There's text. And let's see, you can put images, you can actually draw, if you've used Illustrator, or you got some more tools in Photoshop. Can you see, you can see this.
Yeah, it's darker.
So this is a pen tool. This allows you to draw essentially arbitrary shapes. And once you draw these, you can, of course, do fills, which you still can't see. Now you can. And everything has both a fill and a border. And so you don't have to have both at any given time, but you totally can. Okay. So border, fill, you get the idea. Okay, let's do something a little bit more interesting. Every graphics program in the world has basic shapes. Let's talk about layer styles. All right. So let's say I have my, man, it's so hard to see, my tablet portrait and my phone mobile portrait, okay? I'm going to draw a red rectangle so you can at least see it, okay? And imagine you are doing something like you're going to build you're going to make a design for a desktop website and a mobile website, okay? You're going to use the mobile artboard over here, and you're going to go over here and use the desktop one. You're going to have this kind of scenario here, all right? So let's say you decide to change your theme color from red to something else that we can hopefully see on the screen, like green. Sweet. Okay. So if I've done that, I now have to go and then change it here. And if I have that color somewhere else, I have to change that there too. Who wants to do that kind of thing? So they have this idea of layer styles, where I can go down here and create a new style, and I'm going to call it my theme color. All right? Call it whatever I want. So if I go over here to this block, I can set this as my theme color, right there. And now, if I go in here and I decided, ooh, I want blue, because blue's awesome, okay? Because I changed my something with my theme color, I get this little recycle-ish button. But what it actually means is, okay, update the layer style. Then everything that uses that layer style will get updated. That's actually really nice. Let me show you that a little bit more in action. I have a something I was messing around with. I'm a nerd. I like Greek. So here's something for mobile. As you can tell, I'm not a designer. It's very pretty, but whatever. So here's an app view where this is a question. You have some Greek text and you have some things you got to pick. What's the subject of the first clause? It's not this word, incorrect, but it's this word right here. And there's actually a light color here that you can't see because of the projector. But you can see here. So I've got layer style set up for this purple color here, here, and all over the place. So I can come in here and I can say, I'm going to change my color to blue. All right, update them all. And this had a fill color style, this had a fill color style, this had a fill color style, all of the same color, okay? Now, the lines are borders, and so they're actually a different style. So you have to change those separately. So I actually have this little widget up here that uses that style. So I can go here and I can change that. And there's a quick key. This would be good for you to know. Control-C, which on a Mac is not copy. That's Command-C. Control-C picks up a color picker. And so now I've updated all of my blues, all the borders, and all of this. Is that nice?
Dude.
That's cool.
Dude.
Okay. That's layer styles. That's one way of being able to change lots of things. There's another approach to this, which is it ultimately solves different problems, and that is to use symbols. All right. So symbols are like reusable components. You define a symbol, then you can use it all over the place, and if you change it in one place, you change it everywhere. So this really dorky looking icon right there is a symbol. And so if we look at the interface, I've got over here, these are my layers, where you have every item that you're drawing here shows up over here on the left-hand side, and you can actually grab them. Let's see. Here's the wrong one right here. So I'm selecting each of these table cells individually, this icon, whatnot. So that's there on the left-hand side. Also on the left-hand side is something called the symbols page. And so all of my symbols I defined are here. And here's my dorky looking icon. So I can go in here and change my dorky looking icon and grab the oval tool and all right, so since you can barely see that, I'm going to make this red and obnoxious so that now when we come back,
Can you recite?
well, actually, I'm a little surprised that isn't showing up. Maybe I did it wrong. Let me go back out here and do it. Click. Here we go. Oh, I did it. I changed the white one. The white one right here that you can't actually see very well. I changed the wrong one. Here, I'll draw my oval here. Oval, there it is. Change the fill to red. Now it'll actually show up. There we go. So now it does affect all the instances. So if you've got something that you want to reuse over and over again and be able to change in one place, including adding other shapes and stuff, that's what you use symbols for. If you want to think in terms of styling, like think theming, like CSS, like background color or border, and you want to share that in various places, you would use layer styles. You can use layer styles in combination with symbols. And you can have symbols inside of other symbols. And so there's a lot of capability there in terms of composability. And so if I had a symbol and another symbol, if I change the one that's embedded, it'll change itself outside of the other symbol and within it. So there's a lot you can do there.
So I'm assuming that your text is also replicated that way?
So you can do text styling that way. This right here, I didn't actually create symbols for it, but I totally could. Yeah.
I was thinking more if you want to do a multilingual app where it's going to be the same position for the text, but it will be
Different
English,
text.
French, Spanish, or some other language.
From a design perspective, for Sketch, from a design perspective, I'm guessing you would actually either have to duplicate the artboards for that or use some sort of plugin, because there are a lot of plugins that allow you to do things in Sketch. From a development standpoint, that's a completely different approach to things.
Right.
Right. This is a vector drawing tool, not really a development tool. So that right there is basically layer styles and symbols. That's their main way of sharing things. Okay. And yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going back a little bit.
Sure.
How did you associate the colors for on the different pages with the layer style? Like, how do you associate? How do you say this property of this element belongs to a layer style?
That's a fantastic question. So if I go in here and I'm going to create a new artboard, all right? Then I'm going to create a new rectangle that you can't see. Now you can see it. Okay. If I select the rectangle, it says no shared style over here. Whatever I have over here, which on this time we have like fills and borders and Gaussian blurs and inner shadows and sizes. Some of these things, I think especially down here, these things can all be as a part of style. So if I have a border and a fill selected, and I say, I'm going to name this big red block. Actually, I probably should name it red block because the size of the block is not a part of the style, but the border and the fill will be. So I can come in and draw another box right here, which you can barely see the border. I can go to shared styles. It is now red block. And that's all you got to do.
So everything below the selector for the style, what is it? What is it?
Yeah.
Style? Slash or whatever.
Like position, size,
Yeah.
transform, no.
But everything below that is automatically associated to that style.
Yes. As far as I know, everything is here. Everything I've seen has been. And once again, if you want to change multiple things with a layer style, you just change any one of them. It doesn't really matter which one. And then you get this update, and it'll go cascade. Across multiple artboards, it's super nice. Okay. Let me look at my, I have an outline, so I make sure I cover all the right stuff. All right, let's look a little bit more at templates. So there's a lot of really great stuff in these templates, the built-in ones, and I'll show you how you can get some from the community. For example, if you do an iOS UI design template, and this one comes built in, you get a ton of pre-built widgets. And these are all actually set up as symbols. So that I could actually go and I'm going to create a new page. You can have multiple pages of stuff. Here's that, here's this. I'm going to create a new artboard. So insert an artboard right here. I have no idea if this is going to be the right size. I'm going to insert a symbol and do the navigation bar normal dark. It's apparently not the right size,
Got it, yeah.
as I can see. But I can fix that. So I'm going to put this at 0, 0. And then let's go ahead and update our artboard size to be about right. Okay.
There's snap
There's snap to for elements within
inside.
inside, but the artboards I haven't seen that. So I can then go back and I can say, okay, I want to insert another symbol of status bar of white at 20% charge. Okay, it's going to be right there-ish. That guy needs to get new battery. You can go in and obviously when you're designing a new app, you're going to design a lot of your own stuff, obviously. But at least this makes it a whole lot easier to, let's do it like keyboard.
The base components.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've got also other things like, in terms of base components, you've got on switch, that kind of stuff. What you would generally find is probably what things are in the app design guidelines for iOS. They're going to have most of those general iOS controls that you can just plop in. Okay. Now this is just an image. This isn't actually toggleable. It is just an image. This is just a graphics program. Just a graphics program. Okay. Now I want to show you.
So you're saying that the part that actually shows you that it's actually 20% on the battery and the time and all that, those are the big plugins.
Actually, what these are, this is an image. Well, these are vector drawings, essentially.
Right.
That's all these are. And if you're, are you talking about building iOS apps, or are you talking about just the graphics part?
I'm talking about the part that actually tells you is 35%.
So that would actually be built into iOS itself, and so you have control in iOS over the color you pick for your status bar because you're going to know what it's going to be under it.
Right.
But it's the operating system itself that handles all that other stuff.
Okay.
As an app developer, now I guess we have custom keyboards, but by and large, this is taken over by custom keyboards or the default keyboards that are there, and that's by the operating system. But everything inside, you can either use built-in components, which look very standard, or you can make completely custom components and do what you want. Yeah. I love iOS development. Okay. Now I want to show you something that I think is cool. I want to go back to my other document, which is my app that you probably think is really ugly. Let's go. I'm going to take this. I don't need this artboard. So they have app mirroring, so you can actually see these things on your device. So if your device and your computer are on the same Wi-Fi, that is a requirement, you can, if you want, view the artboards from here onto your phone, which is pretty handy. It's really easy to set up. If you're on the same Wi-Fi, you click this mirror thing right here, which you can't see because I'm looking at my phone. Let me show you something first, and I'll show you that. So I'm on the correct view here on the phone, so I can live update this right now. Well, you can barely see that.
Cool.
Now you can see it. Boom. So you can live update in Sketch, and it will, update in Sketch, it'll live update on the phone.
It's sort of like the same thing you'll see in Sublime Text, where you're actually developing it into the browser. It's sort of like the same thing.
So, but you can't have like touchable components that perform the transition for you. Like I know, like I've used Balsamic before, and you could make it so that when you touch or when you click, I guess, on an element, because it doesn't go on your phone, but if you click on an element on the desktop, it would automatically perform. So it's like a rudimentary way to show like some kind of basic interactions. Like if you do this, it could pop up in a menu or something like that. But
built in, from what I've seen, you can't do that.
maybe
I've seen things where you can, excuse me, you can start doing, at least in terms of slideshow with my type approaches with plugins, though I honestly don't know. I really don't know. This tool was definitely not made, at least originally, for that. It may morph into that at some point. You know, tools become the big behemoths over time. So it may be possible, but I don't know. Okay, what I was going to show you was any iOS device, Lord Lyon's iPhone 2 is showing up here. Now for me to, I have no idea who, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I have Sketch Mirror.
They have Sketch Mirror? Okay. So I can mirror to his phone because there's a Sketch app that you have to install on here as a part of the mirroring. And if you have the Sketch app, then you can mirror there. So, and that's all it is clicking on it, and then boom, it'll mirror to the app as long as the app's running on the phone. Okay, now I want to show you my second. That was my second favorite thing. I'm now going to show you my mostest favorite thing. I'm going to use a template, a iOS app icon template. Okay, the number of icons you have to have now for iOS apps is kind of insane. It's really crazy because you have to have them for multiple sizes of screen. You have to have them for multiple pixel densities. You have to have them for the store, for the phones themselves. It's all that many. That's basically what you're supposed to have. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create the most coolest logo ever. Okay. It's going to be this square, which you can't see because of the contrast. All right, I'm going to put that there. I'm going to paste it. At least I think I'm going to paste it. Paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it.
You have to do that for each one?
Well, if I were to use a symbol, which I'm not going to take the time to do, I can make one symbol and reuse it. But right now, I'm actually doing this to show you another feature, which we're about to get to. So you've got all these, and the iTunes App Store is going to expect you to give them all of these, assuming you're supporting all the devices and whatnot. So here it is. All right, okay, nothing in that folder, good. So I'm gonna go to File, Export. Yes, I want to export all of those. Ta-da, ta-da, and ta-da, there they are. Oh, and there's some in here too. So that's kind of cool. I think that's
It gives it the correct name too, which is great.
Yeah, let me show you more about that, because I'm not done on the exporting. That's really awesome, specifically for iOS, but for web development, you have to do this a lot too. If you've done responsive web design, and you've, anytime recently, then you know there's the whole question of what kind of pixel density of displays people have, and how high quality images do you send. So if you send a 320 pixel image, and it spans full screen on this, it's going to be fuzzy, because it had to be expanded to fill the size of the screen, because this is a 6 Plus. This became a problem when Apple started shipping high density displays with the 4S. Is that correct?
Retina? Or
Retina, when did they do Retina?
I think it was 4.
Was it 4?
It was
Okay.
4, yeah.
So it became a problem there, because basically you had 320 pixels in width before, and then after it's 320 pixels in width. Points. There you go, 320 points, but actually 640 pixels in width, so that all images which were 320 pixels got stretched and everything looked fuzzy and all websites instantly looked horrible. So anyway, you have to export multiple sizes of things. So how does that work? Well, let's start a new file. New. I'm going to create another rectangle with a color, and then I'm going to put some text. And there's really nice hotkeys for this stuff, which is nice. Hello. I'm going to change that color to white, so you can see that. Okay. You can pick some stuff in Sketch. Okay. You can pick some stuff and then say, I'm going to make that stuff, just that stuff, exportable. You don't have to do the whole file. You can just do a little piece. I'm going to make it exportable. Now this thing, which is hard to see for you because of the contrast, this gives you your options. And what is it doing? By default, it says 1x, PNG, with no suffix. And then you have a button for exporting layers. Or you can have another export. And so I'm going to export this at a 1x and a 2x, and it has the 2x suffix that you would expect as an iOS developer. You can, of course, choose different types of images. I'm going to add, by default, it'll do a 3x, a 1.5x, a 0.5x, and at that point, it's out of options, then you can choose things. So I can say, I want to export this as SVG, okay? And then size doesn't matter because it's SVG. It's more vector. So let me make sure that folder's empty. It is. So I'm going to export to the same location. And here are all of my images that I just exported. Here's my SVG file. Here's various PNGs. It actually exported, interestingly, oh, because I had two things selected, it actually exported hello and the rectangle as separate things.
It's not one symbol.
If I turn it into a symbol, then when I export, I'm just going to create 3 right now for funds. Go back here and delete what's here. Now it'll just be the 3, and they are together. So If you do them as symbols, they'll go together. If you select multiple things, it'll just export it all as separate files.
That's because everything in it is vector graphics, right?
Yeah. Everything is here is vector. You can put images and stuff in there, but all the things it's drawing, they're all vectors.
Right. But and if you did the images, presumably scaling.
Presumably that's going to be a problem. Yeah. Unless it's always better if you're big and you go small. So just use too big and then export small. And I guess it would probably be fine then. Okay. So we don't need those files anymore. Next thing I'm going to show you is exporting assets. Okay, I'm going to show you a plugin.
One question about exports.
Yeah.
It also exports CSS, doesn't it?
There are ways of exporting CSS styles from it as well. I actually don't know how to do that because I've never done it. But yeah, you can style a rectangle like this, and you can give it a fill, and a number of things like border radius would also, these would be the kind of things that you could do in CSS. You can actually export just the CSS property so you can apply it on a div on a web page. I've seen it done, but I've never done it because generally I just write all my CSS.
The direction I'm kind of going with the CSS is towards what's known as SMACs. And that's like when you have all of your scalable images and they're all the same across different platforms, so that if you're working in an organization, anybody else can go into the SMACs document and know that everything is consistent within the company itself. So whether they decide to put up their own website or their own mobile app or whatever, all the images look the same. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
So SMACs, scalable modular.
A scalable and modular architecture for CSS.
It's actually a really good book if you're into CSS. It's also really short. So
I took the workshop with them.
it's basically it's a way of setting up patterns of how you do your CSS, so that you can say, okay, this is how we do this. This is how we do positioning. This is how we do modules, reusable units, and whatnot. It's pretty cool. Okay. Next, what I want to show you is I want to show you a plugin. So Sketch has a has a thriving community of plugin and content creators. This is one by InVision. Okay, I'll give you the link to this. And so you can take any box here. Let's say you're going to make a steak website. Let's create a steak restaurant website. Let's create an artboard right here. Okay, I'm going to create a rectangle for this thing because what I want is I want a big header image up here. Okay, big header image. This is a plugin from it's by InVision. I can go in here and I can say, you know what? I'm making just a comp here. Okay, I'm not going to make what's actually going to be on the website. I just need some sample data just so I can start playing with things. This plugin is all about sample data. So I can come in and say, give me photo of various categories. I want food. Give me that. Okay, this is now an egg restaurant. So we're doing an egg restaurant. So I can get images that way. I can go in, if I do it again, it's going to give me some other random image, which is kind of handy if you just need to. I'm going to do a mock-up and I want to see some real content on the screen. You can also do things like text. So let's change that color back to black. So if you have text selected, you can come in and you can say, give me sample text instead of like lorem ipsum. Give me a headline about cooking. Okay, or about travel. Oh, I got to reselect it. Select it. Give me travel or cooking or serve eggs. We need that other picture. How to cook turkey. Anyway, this is about sample data, and you can also do fun things like if you take a oval and you make a circle here. And you can barely see that, but that's okay. You'll be able to see it in just a second. If I make multiple copies of this, I can actually select multiple elements on the screen. I can come over here and say, give me photos for all of them. And when it goes and loads photos, it'll eventually show up right there. There you go. So it's kind of nice. And then if you put 3 text things, if you select them all, you can put all sample text in it. As you can imagine, designers, I would think, would find this very useful. I think it's cool. I'm not a designer, but I think it's pretty cool. So that's all through a plugin by InVision. It's free. You've got to give them your email address, so presumably they can spam you. But I like their spam. They send some interesting design articles. I like to pretend I'm a designer. I read design stuff, but I'm not very good at it. I can't pick a decent color combination for save my life. It's really bad. So there's lots of plugins. If you go to, this place would be sketchappresources.com. That is apparently misspelled. There you go. I found a lot of really cool stuff in here. And so I'll show you just a few of them. But this is, there's lots of free sources. There's some paid resources on here. I'm fairly cheap, so I didn't pay for any. I just looked at some of the free ones. Let's see. This is one I found. And so you can download templates. And did that open up? And I didn't see it. Oh, there it is right there. Here it is. So what this is somebody went through, presumably because they were bored or were trying to get a design job or something like that, and they made a sketch template with all of these samples. And you know, these aren't JPEGs. These are things that you can grab and copy into your own projects, right? If you like the icons, you can come in and grab them, and that's really handy. So there's a lot of stuff there as well. And if, by the way, you happen to be an Android user or an Android developer or want to be, you can. They have a material design template as well, and there you go. It's not just iOS; it's material as well. That one is actually built in. Now we're web developers, though, or at least some of us are. So you can go and you can get. Have you heard of Foundation? Anybody heard of Foundation?
Yeah, we do Foundation.
Let's see. Foundation. It's like Bootstrap. Bootstrap has one of these too. So basically, it's a set of styles and widgets that you can use. And so they have a sketch template. If you get the sketch template, open it up. You've got lots of buttons that you can use. And this is for Foundation 5. So they've got that. That's actually up on their GitHub repo. Foundation 5 sketch. I just downloaded it from there and download sketch template. I got it. Okay. There's lots of that kind of stuff out there. There's also there's places to specifically look for sketch plugins. The one I showed you was just the one from InVision, but there's a ton of them. It's actually pretty cool. There's a lot that I still need to explore. I'd be really interested to see if you could actually make some of this stuff live, where you could actually click on things and make them interactive. So let's do this. This one is a really cool plugin directory. GitHub.com/sketch plugins. Plugin directory. And here's a bunch of plugins that you can go, and they've got a list that is presumably changing a lot. 499 commits for this list of plugins that you can go take a look at. Some of them are for Lorem, some of them are, here's a character count one, here's one for drawing charts, various things. Let's see. Export simple HTML click dummies to prototype interactivity. I guess that's what you might know. So lots of plugins, lots of resources to pull down. I really have not scratched the surface because I have not had enough time to look at all this stuff. It is just really a ton of things. One last tip, and then we'll be done-ish, I guess. So let's say I draw a rectangle on here, which you still can't see. Now you can. All right, and I draw another rectangle here, which is going to be, can you see? You can see green. Then I draw another rectangle over here, inside of here. Well, you can see that. Now, can you see these little red lines? Okay. If you ever wanted to know, if you ever looked at a design and you're like, how many pixels exactly is this thing from this other thing? Because I need to make sure that works. If you have something selected in Sketch and you hold down Alt, it'll give you the distance to the thing. This is the distance from this to here, that to there. And if you have this selected and you hover over this, it'll give you the distance from this to this. This can be a real time saver.
Alignment.
Looks like it, but I wish they had numbers there. That would be nice, because this goes up to the top of there, right? So that can be a pretty handy resource. I find that really nice. And that was my last tip. So that's Sketch. Nothing like SketchUp.
Or catch up.
Or Ketchup. I do like Ketchup. Any questions?
Can you set up grids like some web development, you set up like a 12 space grid? Can you set up grids into this?
As a matter of fact, you can. So let's get rid of that. Let's just go and create a new artboard. So I can go view here and then show layout, and you can actually get a layout grid like so. So this is, I think, 12 column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
It's
9, 10, no, 12. 12 column grid.
Oh, those are the columns.
Oh, you can.
that
Sorry.
we cannot see.
It's
Sorry.
focus.
There's 12 columns here.
So it's a grid.
It is. It's what you would expect with a typographic grid. It's columns and little gutters. Sorry.
Are your gutters like 10 pixels or 20 pixels?
Well,
on the
they're-
side, or?
If you do layout settings, can you see this? Okay.
Oh, they're that.
You can say the number of columns, the gutter width, and so you can customize it. So I would change it and show you the result, but ooh, wait, I can change the color of the gutters.
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, cool. I've never actually done that before. So, okay, so I can change the gutter width to.
So that's just the background, right? You're not changing the color of your design.
Yeah,
Just
this
a
is
grid.
just a grid
It's like
that you can
guides.
align stuff onto. So you can
Just a
change
grid.
the gutter width and whatnot. Just the grid. There's also an actual grid, which you can see because it uses the same color. So if you want a grid to align things to, other than just the typographic column grid, you can do that as well. And so you can come in if you want to say, I want something to span. Let's give that a color you can see. Let's go green so it's different. Okay. So if you want this to align up right there, and then
Is there snapping with that? Does it snap?
it's snapping right here.
Oh,
But it's snapping, so it'll snap to either the grid or the layout grid. And so then you're like, oh, okay, I got that done, and now I'm going to turn this off. And that off. And
The important thing is that it snaps in between inside the gutters.
Yeah.
So if we just show this on right here, it's
Yeah, you just drag it. No, I was just playing with that. It'll actually, I was dragging it around. It snapped in the middle.
in the middle of the gutter.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to be zoomed in.
Drag slowly.
Yep.
That's weird.
But when you
It
get
could be
in,
the
if you
other-
get close to it, go there.
It could be that the other grid is influencing.
I'm seeing
Could be.
it. Yeah, it's just snapping.
And sometimes you do want to break the grid. Not all the time. Not most of the time, probably.
If you're using a grid, you
Stick with the grid.
don't want to break the grid because then you might have people want to come break you.
That's true. Unless you're explicitly breaking the rules provide contrast.
Yeah.
But I'm not a designer, so I don't know what I'm talking about officially. So I guess I've shown you most of the tools. I mean, it's as you would expect in most vector programs, you can change various things like opacity. You know, I've shown you the fill and the border. You can change border radius, so you can do that jazz. Shared style symbols. That was a good question. Thank you. What else?
It looks like you have a flow, like your pages up there. It looks like
Are you talking about over here?
Up one. Or maybe, not the artboard, but the pages. Can you actually create a page flow outline with that as you add more pages?
In theory, let's think about that. So you can have multiple artboards per page. So if you want to do like a page flow, you can have, well, let me open up one that I have already. Like I said, I'm not a designer, so don't make fun of me for this. Okay, you can make fun of me, it's fine. So I have here three views for an iOS app, essentially. These are 3 different states. If I want to, I can have as many artboards on here as I want, or if I want to group them, I can say, hey, this is the start screen, you know, and then this is the login screen, and then I can order them here if I want to, and so you can get a flow. Is that what you mean?
Well, sort of.
There's no transition. There's no way to like transition between them.
Like,
I'm used to
click on
working
them.
with Extra Pro, so it creates a sort of hierarchy of the pages. So if one's a child of a page above it.
I've not seen anything about doing that.
Not,
Yeah,
not
this
even
is-
if you group your assets.
What's that?
Not even if you group your assets.
What do you mean? Like, as in group them as, like, group and ungroup?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to affect flow in any way. Though I honestly don't know. I haven't tried that.
It ends up looking like a sitemap, which is kind of convenient when you know where the page is.
I haven't seen anything like
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wireframe.
Yeah, but that
Yeah.
would be, that would be more of a development tool than a graphical tool like this.
that. Well, I know some designers who use interactive prototyping things, and that's more of a, you can actually click, and it's not a real app because it's not sending data to a server or anything like that, but they can approximate what they would want to see, or even sometimes give exactly what they want to see. It's just, it's not going to be something you can submit to the App Store.
Typically, you do it for testing, usability testing. So I was trying to kind of compare the two, but this looks more like a prototyping tool.
This really is a graphics tool. This is really a vector graphics tool. It's for creating icons, creating symbols, assets, whole screens, that kind of thing.
Can you make it interactive? Can you do?
We were talking about that, and maybe with plugins, but by default, no, there is no interactivity to it. Not that I've seen. Think of it as Illustrator, but they were thinking about web developers and iOS developers at the time when they made it, as opposed to just print or something else.
Have you looked at the Sketch Toolbox?
No.
That's like a plugin manager, so that you can keep all your plugins updated, and it's in beta form.
I mean, they have a plugin manager that I've only used a little bit here. Like, you can go to plugins and manage plugins. So I have Craft installed, but I guess that one's different. Of course, this one I got because, and this is like a plugin manager, but this is the Craft plugin manager that Envision wanted to install, which was totally fine. So you can turn off various features. It also has, Photoshop stuff as well.
Can you create libraries with this, like little library widgets to?
Everything I've seen, the way they've done it is they don't create libraries that you share. you would create a file, and this is how the foundation people do it, is they create a file with everything in it, and everything is defined as symbols within the document. So you can create, like if you come create a new view here, or a new artboard, you can do, okay, insert, symbol, media, orbiter slider photo.
If
Right,
if
that
you
kind of
had
thing.
an existing thing going on there, and suddenly you're like, hey, I need to grab something a pre-existing component out of the foundation collection of symbols, how do you get that into your project?
You can copy and paste.
Export and import?
You would import it?
Actually, you can. I'm here in this document. I'm copying, and this is so far has worked for me every time I tried it. You can just do a new file, paste,
But you can't get,
and it did
You
come over
can't-
as a symbol.
but you can't do it where like, I don't have that, in this project, you don't have that symbol selector drop down like you did in the other one, unless you were to bring over the whole group.
As far as I know, I haven't seen anything like that.
There's not like, I'm looking for like a stock toolbox of stuff that you could like.
Yeah, you can share them on multiple files, and when you
Yeah,
update
right.
that, you can use them. I have not
So
seen
it's
that.
like, I'm an iOS developer, I always want that to be there.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
But if you create your app with that stock template, then it will be there.
Mhm. So you either start with the stock template or copy everything in that you want.
Later on.
Yeah.
So you may have covered is the templates, what exactly do you get when you get a template?
So if you use one of the templates that you download off the internet somewhere, it depends on what they put on it. Like the foundation one that I was just looking at, the foundation one has, if you look at all of its symbols,
Okay, so
it has navigation elements, media elements, form stuff in various different states.
This is what I would call libraries.
Okay. You get icons. I've actually found a number of icon ones that you can just copy out, and these are all basically vectors right here. So if we open this guy up, and this is the layers, essentially equivalent to like Photoshop layers and whatnot. You go down in here, and these are individual shapes within there that you can pull out and manipulate, which is kind of nice.
They're like widget libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it like with Bootstrap and
Bootstrap has
SAS.
one. What?
SAS.
SAS doesn't come with predefined styles as much, right? I've only just seen it as the converter. That's how I've used it, just as converter from SCSS to CSS. But theoretically, yeah. And some of the other stuff I showed, you might not have been here at the time. Like this is one that I found on one of the websites, and this guy came and did an app with lots of widgets. And so if I like, for example, his Twitter icon, I can grab his Twitter icon and copy it into my other project, and I now have a Twitter icon. So there's lots of resources out there, which is totally cool. It's not quite as good as the shared library would be. That actually would be totally awesome. And there are built-in templates. We looked at the iOS design one, which comes with all the standard controls. They have a material design one. They have a web one that gives you, by default, artboards of various sizes. Mac app icon, I have never opened that. So I'm assuming it's Mac
This
app.
would be a great tool
Template.
for doing style guides.
Yeah,
I think it would be.
yeah, it is.
Doing style guides for your clients.
Yeah,
Versus
just
doing
doing
that
style
down,
guides and
sketch for
specs.
that.
Yeah.
All that, yeah.
Awesome style
Oh, yeah.
guide.
Another thing I've been using it for, I mentioned earlier, I'm starting to write my second book. Yes, it's fun. It's a book on like essentially how the internet works and a guide for people who don't know anything about development. What is front end? What is back end? How does this whole technical thing work? Anyway, for the book, I had lots of images, and remember symbols, reusable symbols? I've got all my symbols over here. I drew this computer myself. I'm very proud of my of my nice development laptop. Anyway, so I've got every image in this chapter is a separate artboard that you can sort of see here. It's just because it's building the internet piece by piece, and here we go about traversal over the internet. Mobile plus compute, well, it goes to a tower, then it connects to the internet, and so on and so forth. So I'm using this because every artboard is reusing elements from earlier, which is easy to do because of the symbols. And I can select like one of these and export it just by itself into its own image file. And so it's really easy to incorporate into the whole book writing flow. So it's great for that too.
And did you make the laptop in Sketch, or did you make it in Photoshop?
In Sketch. Oh, here's the Bootstrap. I did already download this. So if you want to see it, it's there it is. So Bootstrap icons, login error. Various components you can use from Bootstrap. And who knows how many of those of these kind of things are out there. Any other thoughts, questions? One thing that's pretty nice about it is and it is sketchapp.com. It is only $99, not a recurring fee, so it is quite a bit cheaper than if you were to do Illustrator, which I think now is still only on the whole rental model, right? $99, that's pretty reasonable. At this point, should you buy it? Because Sketch 3 came out last year. When are they going to come up with Sketch 4? It's only $100. I mean, that's a lot of money. But what's that?
Do you have it?
I have no idea. And part of it might be in terms of when you bought it. If you bought Sketch 3 a month before they came out with Sketch 4, maybe they will. I honestly don't know. I have no special information on that. You can download a free trial if you want to try it. But $99 for a graphics tool, that's actually pretty good. Unless you can, of course, go free and go with GIMP if you want to.
I think this is a lot better.
What's that?
Yeah, this one's a lot better. You know, if you
This is-
compare $99 to buying the old Adobe suite for $1,700, it's a no-brainer.
Or the subscription, which is the cloud, and you're paying by the month.
But that's only good for the first 2 years. Then after that, it costs you.
Well, I have to add the Mac cost.
Yes, if you don't have a Mac, yes, you're going to have to buy a Mac.
So it's a little very steep.
The thing I like about Sketch is it was super easy for me. It was really made for app developers, and so it was easy for me to pick up and just do things. Some stuff in Photoshop and Illustrator is super easy to use. Some stuff I'm like, how does that work again? This is terribly confusing, which is why I took a class on comic book coloring. I learned some things about Photoshop, but that's not particularly useful for development. Anyway, but this, I like Sketch. I understand it pretty easily. I still can't design with anything, but it's a useful tool for me, and I like it.
So if you're a designer, would you share this with your developer and go from there? Would that be the tool that they would find useful for coming from a designer? I'm a designer.
Definitely, because a developer can pick up this and learn basic usage in an hour or two. It's really very straightforward. And so you could do your Sketch, you could do everything in Sketch and then give it to the developer, and the developer can say, okay, if we go back to our example a second ago of my incredibly beautiful app that I made. If the developer for some reason needed just this icon right here for the hamburger menu, they can go export it themselves instead of you having to do it and having to know ahead of time what they're going to need exported. If you've got this funky little icon that's incredibly ugly, they can go in and they can export it if you just give them the file, right? You're shaking your head.
That's not my job. They click the export.
Do you have them click the export button?
Well,
I like clicking
no,
the
but
export
all of our graphic designers do. They all use Sketch now, and they slice and export everything.
Okay.
So,
Do they? I guess they like it.
yeah. They all seem to think it's like the second coming. Basically, it's like there was life before Sketch, and now there's life with Sketch. So, I mean, it's really cool. But my thing was when I first opened it, I had used Balsamic before, which is a quick prototyping.
I've seen it. It's been a while
looks
since I've
like
seen it.
pencil sketches.
Yeah.
But when you go into that, you have that. You have like a tray of every kind of UI widget for mobile or for desktop or for web, whatever that you can think of, and you just quickly drag and drop those in and bada bing, bada bing. Whereas when I open up Sketch, I'm like, oh my god, this is like Illustrator. I don't want to have to literally draw the iOS keyboard or the iOS everything. Where's my stock components? And now I know. So that looks a lot.
It's in the template.
Yeah, it's right there.
So cool.
All I need to know is file new template. So.
Yeah.
I was going to add that for the export part, there is a tool called Zeppelin.
As in flying air things?
Yeah, as in
Great.
flying air things. But it's actually really cool because we have someone who is using Sketch and is delivering assets that way. And basically, it will take and you can get to the actual assets on the screen, and you can click on the different individual components, get CSS rules for those individual components, and get all the cool stuff like what are the distances between the nav bar and the first set of buttons and stuff on the screen. So as a developer, you can get all that too. I just wanted to know how she was doing it.
Can you do it? Can you put that as a part of the build process?
I don't know. I
that
don't know
would be
because
really cool.
she's not a developer. So the person who's doing this is totally UX and graphics. So she has no, that doesn't build process if I asked her that. So I'd have to figure that out if it could be made part of it. I haven't done an export to Zeppelin, which Zeppelin is a cloud service. Basically, you just export it up there. It's a website. People get invites. They log in. They can see what you've done. They can leave comments. You can respond to comments, and you can pull down graphical assets. And it's actually a really nice platform.
It seems to me that if this is vector, that your export would be, this is me, I hate slicing and dicing, it just drives me up. It goes back to the time when we had all that refresh stuff and everything, a zillion things,
Yeah.
shims and whatnot were up there. The fact that this is vector, it seems to me like you would get these individual pieces that would be much clearer and crisper and.
Yeah. You do. Let me show you the export thing again because it really is easy to see. So let's say this is a symbol, this icon, and it's a little component. Okay. If I want to just export that one thing, I can export it at multiple sizes. Here's down here. Sorry, it's so hard to see, but by default 1x size PNG,
Nice.
2x size, 3x size, 1.5. 0.5, but you can also always go in and change them, and you can change your format, JPEG if you want, or if you can change SVG if you want to use SVG. I mean, they have PDF, EPS, TIFF as well.
You
But
can do SVG.
yeah, and if
Nice.
you export this, you'll get them as the separate files, and there's the SVG file.
Well,
You use the
theoretically, you could go in and do some really nice SVG animations with this thing, possibly.
Animations.
Like with frames, with.
I don't know if it would support that, but maybe.
I mean, it seems like with a little bit of encouragement, maybe the company would give you some tools for that.
Maybe
But
so.
there may already be a plugin.
There
I was
you go.
just about to look for that.
Blowing up
Yeah.
plugins. That's why I mentioned
Yeah.
toolbox.
This has like
Is it-
500
Animate.
plugins.
There you go.
This is
Animate Mate for animations directly in Sketch.
All right, there you go.
Export to pro.io. Frame sequencer. Generate GIF.
Okay.
GIF, not GIF. Come on, people. GIF. Let's see. What were some of the other things? There's no balsamic plugins. What was the tool you used?
Action Pro.
Axure. No Axure Pro plugins. I had a UX guy who used Axure for his stuff. He really liked it.
Well, I'm used to doing my own widgets in InDesign, so I create libraries. Believe me, Action Pro is much faster. Unless you've already got your library made. And then you don't share it. You
No,
don't
of course
work.
not. A Git sketch plugin. Go developers. That could be useful. Anyway, lots of plugins to play around with. I opened up one of them and it was written in AppleScript, so I don't know if all of them are or not. Not a clue. Okay, so
There's a plugin for plugin requests.
there's a plugin for every type of plugin, I guess. So, thanks for coming. If you know anybody who wants to learn to program, the Iron Yard. I've got information here, can take a look. We teach people, I teach people, it's fun. It's difficult and grueling, but fun. So if you know anybody, come talk to me.
Program what? In what?
So I teach a front-end development course, so teach CSS, HTML, JavaScript to people. This is meant for people who aren't programmed before. Sometimes it's people completely changing careers. Like I've talked to school teachers who are like, I'm gonna quit the school teacher thing. I've talked to people who are like product managers at technology companies, and they'll be like, hey, I was thinking about learning how to program. I'm like, hey, cool. I want to see what they're talking about. Also sometimes designers.
Sure.
Things like that. So we teach people to code. It's a 12-week, full-time, intensive course. I teach front-end. We have a guy who teaches back-end as well, doing .NET.
Where is this?
Right now we're temporarily located at Coit and Churchill Way. We're getting location right by the train track in downtown, so people can take the train into school.
So is it a 12-week course? What's the cost?
$13,900.
13,000. Okay.
Whoa!
There goes a car.
Yep, it's a lot of technical, but it's also, if you graduate, we help with career placement.
Oh, no.
If you're already in the web world as a designer, you could probably do a lot with your own career placement, I would imagine. And a lot of people, well, I was talking to some person who was a designer a few weeks ago. She was really interested in getting better at WordPress and being able to learn some simple coding to do WordPress with her design. That's not what our course does. Our course is hardcore JavaScript developer mode. That's essentially what we go towards. So if somebody wants to go into that mode, then it's a good course, because that's kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard. If you want to learn some WordPress to do along with your design and some basic, jQuery and CSS, that's not really the course. The course is way too much work for just those things, as it turns out. So, but if somebody wants to switch careers and be a developer, that's what we help people do. And it's people coming from outside the technical sphere who got a civil engineer job, did it for a few years, and decided they hate the job and they want to try something else. So, and I say that because I've met 2 civil engineers in the last few weeks who are both coming to talk to the Iron Yard. Who knows if they'll actually be students? They might have heard 13,900, you're crazy, and walked out. But
Is it like full days, or is it?
full days.
So it's like 5 days a week?
No, 8.
It is 5 days a week. We go 9 to 5
Okay.
for 12 weeks. The first 9 weeks, 9 to noon is lecture time, and then afternoon time is lab time. And I generally give enough homework, so you're busy in the afternoons and often at night and often on the weekends. Fridays are all lab days, and the last 3 weeks of the course are big project time. So we're doing lots of little assignments, getting to larger assignments until the end, where you have to pick a big class assignment of your own at the end, where that would be something big enough where you could say, I built this by myself, you should hire me because I can build that by myself. That's how we built it up. So if you know anybody who's interested in learning to code, we do free cash courses. I did one on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript yesterday. So,
Do you do individuals? Like somebody knows, I know HTML5 and CSS3 pretty well, better at design, but I do know, because I used to set type. If you used to set type, you're used to tags, and you get the structure. But if you just
we
want-
don't specialize, but the class is mostly about JavaScript because, as you know, HTML is really easy.
Yeah.
CSS is a little harder, especially when you get to layout, but JavaScript is where the difficulty really is, because that's a full-fledged programming language and is conceptually much more difficult than HTML and CSS. So 90% of our class is JavaScript. So if anybody has questions, my information's up here. They can ask me about it. I don't want to keep all you guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Hope you found it useful.